to research and essentially offer validation. So this has come up a couple of times in the accelerator and giving some advice to all of you guys because it is coming up a fair amount across different agencies, especially in the current economic climate that we have going on right now. And so what I hear is I'm unsure if this is actually something that my ideal client even wants. Is this actually positioned well that's actually going to allow for them to want to buy it? And ultimately, you want to have your offer, your positioning be so compelling that they actually would feel kind of dumb to want to say no to it, really, right? You want to make sure that you've got covered the objections, that you're very clear on what's going on, and really have a very clear understanding. The thing that I see happen loads is that for a lot of agencies, because you do this for clients a lot, you make loads of assumptions around your ideal client, why they would buy, how to market it, what are the pain points, all of those types of things. And ultimately, making an assumption can lead you into being in a really difficult place. And so the opportunity here is to validate where you are, even if you end up in exactly the same spot and you did not change a thing. And it allows for you to know that you've ultimately been in the exact right place. It's a phenomenal way to just have that incredible amount of assurance. And so if you were to be working on how to position and offer the copy for a website, the vast majority of you are going into a rebrand to develop the messaging for that client. You would be thinking about and asking questions around that client. What are their pain points? What's going on? And ideally, a lot of you would likely want to interview potential customers, existing clients. Why did they buy? Why would they not buy? All of those types of things so that you can fully understand. And so high level, I want to talk to you today about how can you actually get in touch with your ideal client to ask them a couple of questions, how you actually go about asking them in the first place, and then ultimately what types of questions should you be asking. So in preparation for today's training, I just wrote down a couple of different ideas of what you can be doing, and then we'll talk about how you can actually reach out. So here's a couple of examples of the pools of people that you can be thinking about, from LinkedIn to friends and family to even just going on Google and looking up the business type, the industry, the type of person that ultimately you need to actually be speaking with, and picking up the phone and calling. Largely, people like to help other people. And more often than not, people are actually very apt to actually answer these types of emails asking for essentially a quick favor or a trade of some advice of what's going on, and ultimately allowing for both of you guys to be in a better place. And so it could be a very quick email that's like, hey, John, I found you online and I noticed that you work in this industry. I was looking at actually wanting to have a conversation with a couple of CEOs that are in this particular space so that I can ask a couple of questions. I'm doing some research. This is something a little bit new for me, and I wanted to actually just see what and understand your experience and how you are currently, how your business is currently operating. It would only take about 15 to 20 minutes. If you'd like, I'd be happy to offer you a strategy session as well, because I know your time is really valuable, and I ultimately want to be able to compensate you for your time. Very simple, easy sort of email message that you'd be able to send out, or even a phone call to ask for that, or a LinkedIn message that you can send out that allows for you to be able to get in contact with those people. Now the questions. So in preparation, again, I had some questions that I just pre-wrote down, the types of questions you want to be asking. And so what I want you to do is actually, what are the pools of where your existing client is, from Facebook groups to LinkedIn groups to all of those different types of things that you can actually post and ask and get a couple of people to meet with. So here's some questions that you would want to consider asking, and ultimately want you to do the same. Ask the type of questions that are going to allow for you to be able to answer what burning questions you have about your current positioning. So one of the first ones is, what current challenges are you facing with X, with lead generation, with your website, with conversion, with your brand, with your NPS score, with your lifetime value of a customer, and your average order value, whatever. What are the current challenges that you're currently experiencing here? And what have you tried ultimately to solve for this problem is another great one. Do you have any support internally right now for that particular issue? And then finding out how the typical that size of business is making buying decisions. So how if you were to have an opportunity like this, how exactly would you go about making a decision? Do you have to involve any people? How do you get a PO? How do you get approval? Is it purely budgetary oriented? Do you have to ask for it before the fiscal year? Like, what exactly is necessary in order to make this type of purchase and invest in an agency like mine? And this is a really big one, but what would be the reason why, if you were to look into an agency, what would be the reason why you would decide not to work with one? Like, what is the internal issue as well as external issue internally versus how you actually feel about that agency? What would be the reason why you would say no? And then ultimately, how would this specific service ultimately impact your business? Once you have all that information, I would go back and validate your offer. Does it solve for those challenges? Does it mitigate their concerns? Does it actually allow for them and understand what is the timeline for that decision making? Who needs to be involved in it? How are you positioning yourselves? And then ultimately, this is a phenomenal opportunity as well for you to come back and actually say to this person, hey, I've spent some time going through and collecting all the information that you shared with me. Would love to actually just share with you what I'm currently thinking about making some augmentations to how we're positioned and get your feedback. And so you can actually then go and present your offer to them. And in a lot of cases, you've now taken all the information from them. You've asked them questions. You've kind of tailored your service and how you're currently positioned to them. You'll often find that they're actually going to want to buy. So it's a great way for you to actually get business while also doing market research, allowing for you to be in a place where you're no longer second guessing yourself. You're really not sure about what's going on. And ultimately, knowing that ultimately you're really well positioned in the market and being able to actually allow for those ideal clients to want to actually work with you. So what I want you to do is spend a little time where are your ideal clients currently at today, which you can then use for lead generation later. And then what questions do you want to ask that's going to allow for you to validate? So what types of questions are you being asked in your sales process right now that allows for you to be able to dig more deeply into that particular problem, that internal monologue, or what's going on within the organization from that buying decision, and allow for you to really be able to be in a phenomenally, really great place for how you're currently positioned and marketing yourself as well as selling yourself. If you have any questions around how to actually go about asking these questions, or is this question a good question to ask, do me a favor, go ahead and comment below, or go ahead and shoot us a DM. We're absolutely happy to help you out. Looking forward to hearing what you guys find out and seeing the offers that you guys refine and adjust from this, or even if you are just validating an existing offer and it is perfectly positioned, would also love to hear that as well.